All right, welcome back to another episode of Phoenix Edge. This is an RPG and gaming news podcast. My name is Hat.
And I'm Eric.
And as you can see, Stan is not with us today. He is in the middle of getting his first home. So he's busy moving and doing super unfun stuff. But he's promised to be available next week. So we'll have to look forward to that. But you'll have to be stuck with just me and Eric again, like old times. So, anyways, our topics for today. Eric is going to give his thoughts with Grandia. He wasn't able to make last week. And then we're going to talk about the Dragon Quest XI demo on Switch. We'll give some thoughts on Oninaki. And then today there's been a story breaking that there's a hint at a possible Legend of Dragoon remaster. Probably not, but maybe. So we want to get into that. And then we're going to get into RPGs coming out in September. There's a whole lot of them. So many so that we had to take some of them off the list because they kind of weren't RPGs. But anyways, we still have about 16 games to go through. And then we have 2 Discord questions, one from Joker who says, what are you planning to delve into in the future? And have you played any of the harder games like Dark Souls? And then BioPhoenix asks, if you could make an RPG of your own, what would you do? Things like gameplay, setting, concepts, etc. So we got a lot to get into today, but also Eric wanted to talk about Battlechasers. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah.
You want to start off with that?
Yeah, just 1 second. I'm posting all these things real quick and then why don't you tell me what you've been playing while I get this ready real quick.
So, so I've played a lot of things this week. I've played which we can get into in a bit, the Dragon Quest XI demo. Then I've been playing some Oninaki, and then I've been playing some more of Grandia 2. But I'm trying to fix one thing here. I've been playing more of Grandia 2. I've completely stopped playing Grandia. I want to get back to it in Grandia 1, but I'm farther in Grandia 2, and I just want to plow through that game. So I've been having a lot of fun with it. Surprisingly, I'm just overly impressed with the dialogue in the game. I really expected like really cheesy dialogue, and surprisingly, it's really good. So I'm really impressed. But what have you been up to?
Yeah, well, I did beat Grandia 1 on there, and I will say it's a good game. I mean, the story isn't going to blow you away or anything like that, but it's a fun, cute little story with like a overly optimistic young protagonist, which I actually enjoyed him because you get a lot of the like when you play a lot of games that have a lot of melodrama main characters, which I'm not saying that's bad or anything, but when you just get a lot of it, it's fun for once in a while just to get like a game where it feels like everyone ultimately is having a good time. And those type of games, and I really like that once in a while. I think that's the most appealing thing about Justin. Like you kind of think of him as kind of annoying at first, but it's like that's kind of the intent with the character, and I think they do pretty well with that. So I think there's a lot of fun to it, and the battle system is just very simple to the point. I'm not the biggest fan of having to level every single thing in the game. Like you have to level your axe, have to level your sword, have to level your magic to get this certain spell, and ended up turning to a lot of grinding because you know a lot of battles in the game you can get through it just by simply attacking. So
Yeah.
and the equipment variety isn't frequent enough that like it kind of it flows naturally. It's like you have to really pay attention to it or grind later in the game for this type of stuff. But besides that, it's your basic fair JRPG. Random encounters and stuff like that. I mean, I enjoyed that aspect also. In terms of the remastered visuals, they did a really good job upscaling the background of Grandia 1.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks really damn good. like, but in terms of the sprites themselves, it's kind of a hit or miss type of deal. The smoothing, they use a smoothing effect on the characters, so they don't look pixelated. like they do in the original version of the game.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look bad when it's looked at further, like when the camera zooms out more. But when they have those scenes, like those cutscenes where they really zoom in on the characters, like it really looks like really smudged big time. Um, but in terms of other remastered stuff, I did notice they completely remastered the audio, like almost to a fault. Because I don't, I'm sure you've played enough to hear the voice acting, but
Yeah.
they even like cleaned that up. And while the voice acting is charming, it's obviously like very flat. I just read this from a script, not even acting it out level voice acting. But
I feel like it's very hit or miss. Like certain characters are like putting their heart and soul into it. I feel like, and then other ones are kind of just like, okay, well, I'm just gonna read this.
yeah, that's exactly how it is, and you can tell that more now since the audio quality is greatly increased.
Hmm.
Now, voice acting in that game is really far in between, so you know it's you're not gonna get annoyed by it, and even then, you can put the Japanese version on if you really don't like the English version. But I mean, it's so far in between voice acting, and they mostly use it to like introduce a new character, or if it's like a very very important scene. That's like the only time you hear voice acting.
Yeah.
But
Um. I
besides
mean,
that, it's a great remaster, and it's definitely, I think that alone is definitely worth it in the package. But I'll see what you think before I say something about Grandia too.
honestly, I'm really surprised that I didn't think much of this game because I had played it before, but going back now, I've found that I'm really, really impressed with it. Mainly because there's a lot of nuance in the way the story unfolds, and there's like such small scenes that I feel really add a lot. For example, really early in the game when you talk with his mother, like the fact that you can like click on each character and they can respond to each other and they're just telling the story about how the mother and the father got together. I mean, there's something that's very like charming about it, and it's so natural and it just flows so seamlessly between character to character. It doesn't feel forced at all, and I found myself just getting really wrapped up into it. And the music too is just really really good. It's really fitting, I find, at least in Grandia 1. And um I don't know. I think this is an excellent display of a great. I was going to say PlayStation game, but it did come out on the Sega Saturn. That is the definitive version. But most people in the West know it on the PlayStation. So I'm really disappointed in myself that I didn't think more highly of it, especially since I had played it. But I think now, me being an adult, I can go back and recognize things that maybe weren't as flashy as in, Final Fantasy 7 or 8 with, all these huge spell animations and everything. Like I didn't get really caught up in, just the character interactions and things like that. But it's got great world building. So I think it's a fantastic game.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. And I actually like those like cinematic scenes they have
Oh, dude, it's
between
yeah,
very beautiful artwork.
yeah. I love the introduction of the game where you're sitting on that ship, and then they open up the I don't know what you call them, but basically like the window covers or whatever. That's a terrible word for a sci-fi ship, and you can just see the landscape and like it kind of like zooms in and everything. Like it's really really great looking. So, but yeah, I'm with you, man. These sprites, I hate them and I love them because the smoothing effect, it looks pretty polished when the camera's back far away, but when it zooms in on them, just like you said, it just doesn't look very good. You can see where the colors are just smushed together and it just kind of looks like crap. But far away it looks really good. So I think it is a little bit more nuanced than when they did this in Chrono Trigger where they just smoothed them out. For PC, that version, it just really just destroyed it. But this is a little more nuanced. I can deal with it, and I think there's enough positives to this remake that I'm willing to recommend this over the base game. So
Yeah, the big difference is Chrono Trigger doesn't have a dynamic camera. So like
it's
that
constantly
the
zoomed
size of
in.
that sprite is like never zoomed in or out. So you see that the whole time. Grandia, it shows it mostly, like you said, when it zooms all the way in. So it's harder to look in that aspect. But
Hmm.
one more thing about that game is actually, now since I say the camera, that camera is janky as all. And I understand that they were kind of like showing off the technology of the game during its time. But
Right.
you notice, like, during the battles, like, that camera is so shaky. Like,
Yeah.
with the characters, it's less noticeable on the when you have it in handheld mode,
Right.
but you see in the bigger screen, it's
Well,
definitely like, oof.
even traversing, because they were trying to show off that, hey, this wasn't a fixed camera. You could do the full 360-degree camera. And, they would put like doors and such on different sides of buildings. So you had to use the camera to find your way around town. And I think that's really cool. And even with games like Final Fantasy X and the PlayStation 2 that had a fixed camera, it didn't let you do that. So, like, this was really cool that this was doing this back then. But I do agree with you that sometimes I think they take it a little too far to show off, because sometimes I enter a house one way, and then when I exit, the camera is faced the other direction, and I'm completely lost in the town now. I don't know where I'm at. It's really hard to get my bearings because suddenly the camera's facing the opposite direction, and what I thought was left is now right. And I guess that's why they put the compass on the screen too. Maybe they felt that people were going to be a little disoriented at first. I don't know, but
Oh yeah,
um,
now that you say that, another complaint, and actually, I bring this to Grandia 1 and 2 as
mhm.
a complaint, is I'm not a fan of dungeon design.
Yeah.
And I say that particularly because while you do get the compass to guide you where you need to go, uh,
Hmm.
everything in the dungeon looks the same. Like, very rare, like, it's pretty rare that something like really stands out to, and I kind of get what they were going with it. They kind of wanted you to get lost a little bit, but they didn't really do a good job on setting things up to have like familiar looking spots. And the compass feels like a band-aid on top of that, because it should have been kind of designed that you don't need the compass, but the compass is just helpful anyways. Like,
Right.
if I didn't have that compass, I'd be so lost in those dungeons all the time because everything looks the same, and it will just frustrate me to no end.
Yeah.
But I mean, but you do have that, so it's not too bad to get through the dungeons. It's not Trails in the Sky level
Right.
uh, bad dungeon, but there was just times where I was just getting a little frustrated just from trying to navigate around it.
Sure. Yeah.
Mhm. But overall, it's still a great game. There's small faults with it and small faults in the remaster version, but this is most definitely the definitive version of the game, like, for sure.
Yeah, that's kind of my thoughts, where there's some negatives with this version, but all in all, I do think that it would be pretty difficult to compare this to emulating the game, because I think that a lot of times when these remasters come out, especially for older titles, a lot of people think, I could just emulate this game, or I could just buy it on the PlayStation Network on my PS3. And that is true. Those are options, but I do think they did enough work in this version of the game to make it worth it, because the fact that you can play it on your Switch, you can play it portable. It does look very, very good for the most part. They did some work on the audio. And from what I understand too, there was a tiny bit of content that was missing in the PlayStation version that was only available in the Sega Saturn version. And apparently that content is in here. I'm not super familiar with what that is. I think it was listed as a few, like a cutscene or two, like an FMV type thing. I don't know why they cut it in the first place. But regardless, apparently all that content's in here. And the developers have talked about how they compared this to the Sega Saturn version, like screen by screen, and just really wanted to make sure that they were basing it on the Saturn version, because that's the version that hardcore Grandia fans really, really like the most. So I just think this is probably the best way to go. So,
Most definitely. But
but
Grandia 2,
yeah, dude. I've
um,
been playing a lot of that, and what do you think? Because I I'm really digging it, but I don't know if you're as
I
hyped
was
about it as I
enjoying
am.
it. I was honestly enjoying it. I love that nostalgic Dreamcast 3D graphics feeling to it. It did take me back to early 2000s. Um, there's a lot of improvements it makes from the first game, and especially its battle system, and how more accessible magic and skills are comparatively to the first game. I really did enjoy. Unfortunately, I've stopped playing it right now because I got about 10 hours in, and my save file got corrupted within the game. Not.
Okay. So, do you know, is there anything in particular that you did that you think caused this? Because that would kill my soul right now because I've been playing this game a lot.
All I did was when I was at the save screen,
Yeah.
I decided not to save quite yet because I forgot to hit the recover button. When I hit B to go out without saving, it uh, it corrupted it.
What does the recover button do? I've been confused about that.
It heals your characters HP and MP.
Oh, okay, never mind. Like, okay, because I is that what? Okay, so let's back up here. So when you go to a save point, there's a recover link, and then there's save. And I know if you click on recover, that recovers the characters. But I was confused because in the save screen itself, it also says I think press Y to recover, and I guess I did not correlate that with the same recover that was in the prior screen. So, okay, that makes a lot more sense now. I thought this was like, oh, like load the save file, like recover the save file or something, because it was totally unrelated. That makes sense. But
Yeah.
that
So
sucks, dude. How you were 10 hours in?
yeah, it was about 10 hours in. I mean, I'll pick it up again one
Have you beaten this game before, or is this kind of was this a
long time
long
on the
time ago?
Dreamcast.
Yeah,
I still have my Dreamcast copy.
really?
But the one thing to definitely notice, the story is a lot more mature than Grandia 1. It's like a night and day type of thing.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Like
I
completely different direction.
yeah,
Like the combat system is for the most part the same, but I guess it's a Final Fantasy type deal where they wanted to make one type of game and then try something different while still keeping the elements intact.
yeah. I mean, sorry, I was just messing with something. I've been kind of doing a few things with the stream while we've been talking. It's been capture my focus here every now and again, because I keep feeling like I'm seeing bleed through on the mic, but that's I don't know. I think I fixed it. But anyways, yeah, I do think the story is more mature because it like right when it starts off, if you notice, and I said this last week that the main character is kind of a dick. Like he's not your typical good-hearted hero. He's just kind of rude and obnoxious at times, and he's very unsympathetic, which is, um, I like that. I like that in a main character. And one thing I've
I did
noticed,
notice he's particularly more rash towards like the church and religion. Like I noticed when you're like at a bar with them, he's kind of still a little, he's still kind of got like a dickish type attitude,
Mhm.
but like he's more just like a little bit more laid back. Like he's just aggressive and wants to make a snarky comment every time the priest or Elena says anything, at least at the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. There is that weird pause, though. Have you noticed that when you go into battles? Because the game, for the most part, runs pretty smooth. Every now and again, I feel like it hiccups a tiny bit, which is strange. But when you go into battle, it like freezes for a second and then it goes into battle again. And I don't know if they just did that on purpose or if that's like, what is that loading?
I
Was
think when you play the Dreamcast version, I think it's loading there because I still got that click in my head that like when I played the game the first time that the what was I about to say, like the Dreamcast is a very loud console. Like every time it loads something, it like you just hear that CD going. Uh, like it pretty much made that sound every time you went into battle.
yeah.
So it was loading and chugging a lot to get to that transition screen.
Well,
And this game, I mean, the loading screens are almost non-existent in Grandia too, which makes it like an an amazing version in itself, right there.
Yeah. So all in all, I do think this is definitely worth the $40. I understand it's digital. These games are kind of older. Do they really need to be $40? But I think you're getting a really, really good deal for that price if you like these types of games. And it is really,
You're
really
getting
good.
a lot. Like you're getting a lot for that $40. Like you like Grandia one is like that was a 40-hour game easily.
Yeah.
And then Grandia 2, I think, was between 30 and 40 hours. So, I mean, you're getting a lot of content there. It's kind of silly to call it the Grandia. I know Dreamcast guy pulled this up, pointed this out when I watched his video on it. He uh, he pointed out, it's like, why is it called Grandia HD Collection when it's only the first two games? When there's like, I think there's like 7 games total in the series.
Yeah, but apparently these are the only two ones worth playing from what I've heard people say. I know Grandia 3 is supposed to be just god awful, and I
You
tried.
know, I've owned Grandia 3 since it came out on the PS2, and I've never played it.
That's
That
terrible.
thing's been sitting in my library for however long it's been out for, like 15 years, maybe.
You just never played it.
Never played it.
I tried
Uh,
watching some gameplay online, and it looks really polished for a PS2 game, but the opening cinematic is just outrageous. It's like a bunch of people in this airplane race, and like one guy's like throwing watermelons. He's got endless watermelons that he's just throwing out of his plane at other planes. And then there's some kid that's like rescuing a princess who's like falling off a castle. It was, but like it was so preposterous that like I don't know, but maybe it gets better after that. I don't know, but
I know you can buy. I don't know if it's still a thing. I think you can buy Grandia 3 digitally on PS4.
so that's
I
a
think
thing.
that's part of the PS2 collection, like along with Wild Arms 3 and Arc the Lad 4.
Yeah.
I think that was part of it also. If people are interested in that, you don't have
Looks
to get a PS2 out. You can just download it on your PS4
yeah.
if you
Look
care enough to.
very cool. Looks like in the comments here we got Andrew in the house asking how we are. Doing pretty good, man. We got Lane who says he's playing Xenoblade on his 3DS at the moment. You are the only person that I know that prefers that version, but that's pretty cool. BioPhoenix says, "Hey, what's good? Playing SMT Soul Hackers while listening." Yep, I went back to my 3DS for the first time in 2 years. LOL. It's very cool. Thanks, guys, for joining. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I would have to play some Grandia some more to give some more thoughts. But is there anything else you want to kind of throw out there about it?
No, that's about it. I mean, just overall, they're two great RPGs in the package together. If you don't believe the $40 is worth the price, then I'm very sure it'll probably go on sale sometime this year.
Well, on
People,
PC, yeah, you can buy them separately starting next month. So that'll be cool.
yeah, and Grandia one's coming out in September for PC. It's out now on Switch, but if you want to just wait and just get that game instead of the other one, just buy them individually, then yeah, they'll be separate on PC. I kind of wish they did that on Switch. I wish you could just buy one and then the other. Because maybe you just want Grandia 1 and you've already played like Grandia 2 on the PC or something,
Hmm.
and it'll just be $20 for Grandia 1. But
Yeah, especially since it's digital. I could understand if they wanted to, if they were doing physical editions, that
yeah,
okay, they don't want to be left over with excess stock. Maybe one's more popular than the other. That's kind of what they do with Final Fantasy X, where they'll slap them both together, 10 and 10 too. But I mean, if it's digital, just let people buy, one game. It's not that big of a deal.
yeah. Oh, BioPhoenix corrected me. Grandia 3 is on PlayStation 3's PSN,
Mm,
not the PS4 one.
okay, that's
Hmm.
interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so it's there if you want to play that. But yeah, one of the other things I've been playing this week is I've gotten into, or at least trying out the Dragon Quest 11 demo on the Switch. Now I've recorded some of my game footage here, so I'm gonna try to play that while we're talking. And I do have some positives and negatives to say about that, but um,
You got
Eric,
something negative to say, Dragon Quest?
yes, unfortunately I do. But were you able to test the demo out at all, or did you kind of check out some other people that were checking it out?
I checked the beginning of it a little bit just to see a graphical difference. I don't want to make any form of progress in that version because first off, I 100% completed the PS4 version, so I don't need to do that again in 3D. I want to play through the whole game in the 2D 16-bit mode.
Mm.
So that's the way I'm going to be playing the whole time on the Switch. But
First off, well, real quick, that this is a straight bummer. So it gives you this option. I'm trying to pull it up, like right here. Okay, I got it on the screen. So it says 3D mode and 2D mode, and like it gives you like almost like it's an option to play it in 2D mode for the demo. But then if you click on it, it says you can't play the 2D mode. Like, see right here, I'm trying to click on it, and it's just 2D mode is not available.
yeah, that's disappointing.
It's like, oh,
I'm
we're gonna
excited.
tempt you, but yeah.
But in terms of the 3D mode, the first thing people need to know is that this version of the game, they're not using the same Unreal Engine as they did for the PS4 PC version. The reason it took so long to get this version out was pretty much because they had to convert it to a new form of the Unreal Engine that only worked because apparently the version on the PS4 doesn't work well on the Switch, so they pretty much had to convert that over. So that's a pretty amazing task they did right there, just converting everything to a new engine. And
Yeah, it took a lot of work. I know one of the other things they had to do with this version is because they were already doing all that work with getting it to a new version, and then they really wanted to focus on performance. The last thing they wanted was the game to not run smoothly. So they took a lot of the NPCs and character models and other things that were going to be moving a lot on the screen, and instead of just lowering the resolution, they just reduced the amount of polygons in the character models, so it would be, I guess, less resourceful for the Switch to process it. And I think overall that was a smart move because it obviously doesn't. It's not as buttery smooth as it is on my PS4 Pro. I noticed that immediately, but it does run fairly well. Like, I think you could easily play the entire game like this if you wanted to.
yeah, there's in terms of in graphical difference, there is
Yeah.
obviously
This
obviously
is
the
elephant in the
PS4
room.
obviously the PS4 and the PC version look better. But the thing is, I don't think the difference is that great. I don't think it's great enough that the portability aspect of it, or like it's a deal breaker, because the main reason you want it on the Switch, well, two main reasons you want it on the Switch over the PS4 is the portability factor and the 16-bit mode. The PS4 and PC version do not have the 16-bit mode, at least not yet. I don't know if they'll make that like future DLC or something, but they currently have no plans to put them on there. So that mode is only available on the Switch. That version looks gorgeous from what I've seen on the screenshots.
Yeah.
But we don't get that version yet. But in terms of the graphical, it's not so different. It's really not. Like there's some shading and there's some brightness to it that you can notice, but the game still looks gorgeous on the Switch.
It does look really good on the Switch, and I think, but I feel like I'm in between because my feelings on it are, wow, I'm surprised this is running on the Switch. But if I have to be honest, I do think I'm a little more pessimistic on the way that it looks than, unfortunately, than you are, because like there's certain things that I just noticed, like it makes it obvious that this game was not designed for the Switch initially. It was designed for the PS4 in mind, because there'll be story sequences which start off with the camera panned way out. And on the PS4 version, that's fine because everything's real sharp and crisp. But on the Switch, because they've, I think they've reduced the polygon count and the characters' faces and such, I'm assuming, and just a lower resolution, a lot of times like NPCs and character faces will just be like very blurry and muddy, or you'll see like this, like the outer edges of the models, the lines are kind of shaking because I guess it's an anti-aliasing issue. I'm not too sure, but there's other things like the grass is popping in and the trees pop in, like only a couple feet in front of you. So To me, there is a big, I don't want to say a big difference, but I can definitely tell, like, it feels like I'm playing the game without my glasses on compared to what I'm used to. But I do think that if you have not played one of the other versions, I don't think that like this would be a bad way to play the game, because there are times when it does look almost.
About how many complaints there were about not the soundtrack not being orchestrated. I really didn't think people were going to care too much
Well,
about that.
it's, but the thing
I was
is,
surprised. Like, that was a major complaint from people.
yeah,
But
I was.
now the Switch version does have orchestrated
Yeah,
soundtrack this
but
time.
okay, yeah, and it sounds beautiful, and like that's one thing where I'm like, wow, this is really cool to play it with a live orchestra. It sounds fantastic. But the thing is, I don't feel like that's a selling point for the Switch version necessarily. I just feel that Square Enix like being like just unreasonable. Like, hey, you spent $60 on this already. Now go spend $60 again so you can play the game in 16-bit mode and orchestra and have an orchestra. Like the orchestra is what really gets me, because I
Like beat
really,
up like me.
yeah, they know you'll buy it again, that you'll spend 60 more dollars, and that's why they do it. And then like it's just like, why would you do that? And I'm sure that eventually this stuff will come over to the PS4 and the PC. There's no reason not to, but it's just, I hate that they do this. That they're like, they have this exclusive content. They're going to call this the definitive version, but we already know the PS4 or especially the PC version is going to look the best. So if the PC version had the orchestra and the 16-bit mode, yeah, it wouldn't be portable, but that would definitely be more of a definitive edition than this version. And like, it's not like the Switch version wouldn't have something that they could sell people on. I mean, to be able to play this in portable mode, that is a selling point in of itself. And it's so crazy to think I could play this like on my lunch break when I'm so used to playing it in my living room. That's awesome. But come on, Square. Like, like just give us everything on the PS4 version and stop like making people buy this game twice just to like it's something that should cost like an extra $10. You know?
Another big thing is that it's coming out, I think, the same week that, or a couple days after the Link's Awakening remake, which may not be bad on my end because I know the Link's Awakening remake so well that I can probably beat it and get 100% it before the before Dragon Quest XI comes out.
Yeah.
And so that'll be interesting around that time. But yeah, I do agree with what you say that in terms of like the game's graphical fidelity and what features are and are not. So that just makes me hope that they'll at least maybe one day do a DLC for the PC and PS4 version that offers like the different soundtrack and maybe whatever little content is available in the S mode. I don't know if there's any. I didn't check. I don't know if there's any content, additional content itself.
Well, I know Nintendo's big on, hey, if you're going to re-release your game, like it's not a new game, but it's going to be like a re-release on our system, that they're really pressuring companies into having something that's exclusive, even if it's small. And perhaps that this is one of those things where Nintendo said, hey, you know, I am excited. I'm with you. I'm going to play this game all in 16-bit version. That's on my Switch. It's going to be 16-bit only.
Yes. Your audio cut off for a second. So if you just said something in the past like minute, it wasn't up.
Oh, okay. Can you still hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine now.
Okay. Yeah, I was just saying that I think the 16-bit version and the audio version, I think that that's probably what the exclusive content is for Nintendo in their eyes, because I know Nintendo usually likes to have exclusive content on their games when they're re-releases.
That's some pretty damn exclusive content. You get a whole different version of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw some people in some comments kind of pointing out that, hey, it's really cool we're getting the 16-bit version, but how come no one's complaining that we're not getting the 3DS version, and
I mean, it's still very similar to. It's really a meet in the middle between the 16-bit version and the PS4 version.
yeah.
So I kind of understand that, but I think if someone came to me and said, okay, you can only have the 3DS version or the 16-bit version be side by side with it, I would easily pick the 16-bit version.
Yeah, me too. And I kind of thought about this and was trying to figure out why I felt that way. And I think it's because the 16-bit version feels like a novelty thing. It feels like a nostalgic thing. It seems like a really cool and fun and creative idea. Whereas the 3DS version itself, that's like a 3D version of this game, but only on the 3DS, they that feels more like a limitation of hardware than it does a creative endeavor, if you know what I mean. Uh, it, it just feels like it was limited by the hardware and the way it looks, and not necessarily like they were like, hey, let's make a PlayStation 1 looking game version of this game. So I think that's probably why people are kind of more hyped about the 16-bit version than they would be about the 3DS version.
Yeah, and I'm thinking a lot about like the 16-bit version. I'm just kind of thinking how they're going to do certain scenes like in that version. I'm so fascinated by
Is it going
that.
to have voice acting?
I
I feel
don't think so.
I feel like that would be weird.
Don't quote me on that, but in all the previews I've seen, have not had voice acting to it.
I'm okay with that if they don't, but like
I'm
it
fine with that.
would be, yeah, it would be strange if you have these little, you know, pixel art character and like you have this like massive like voice coming through, uh like so much of these characters have. It would be really really strange. I think you'd get used to it though.
Yeah, I know the Japanese version definitely doesn't because the 3D version doesn't have voice acting either. Though I think they did later add a Japanese voice track to the game in Japan because the first version of the game that came out over there didn't have any voice acting. So it was the same deal with 8, like they did with Dragon Quest 8. There was no voice acting in Japan, but they brought voice acting to the Western version. So for 11, they did the same thing, and we put voice acting in it, and then Japan was like, "Huh, maybe we should put it in ours."
Yeah, we're just it's weird. Like they just don't want to release the same stuff on both versions. But
They're willing to be a little more experimental with the West, but in Japan, they keep those games very traditional.
yeah,
Like
that's right.
we get a fancier UI, fancier looking UI. They get the same Nintendo looking UI.
Like black and
They
white
love
text.
it being traditional.
Yeah, it's I totally forgot about that, but they did a lot of work for the Western version with the UI and the little boxes and everything, and just the way it looks a little bit more high def, you know. So yeah, I forgot about that. Interesting. Um, but anyways, so this game's gonna come out, I think, on the 27th at the end of September, and it's gonna be a day one purchase for me. But I'm gonna reluctantly spend that money because I'm upset that we're not getting all this content on the PS4 version, or at least the opportunity to buy the 16-bit version by itself. But I'm gonna pout my way all the way up to GameStop and buy this game
Yeah,
on day
I got to
one.
make up my money, so I think it's just going to be the FF8 remastered at the beginning of September. I might actually wait on Astral Chain for now and maybe get that later this year, maybe around Christmas time, and then definitely get Link's Awakening and Dragon Quest 11S at the end of the month for
Well,
that.
one, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of RPGs coming out next month, and we have a topic about going about that a little bit later. But yeah, it's not going to be pretty on the wallet if you if you try to get all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, so this will be cool. It seems to run pretty well on the Switch, despite some obviously not being as polished on the Switch as it is on the PS4. But is what
Yeah,
it is.
yeah, I think it. Just to put everything in short, I think it just ultimately, if you get this version, ultimately depends on what exactly you're looking for out of the game. If you want to decide between the PS4 PC version or this version.
Right. But yeah, we had another game that was kind of big that came out last week, Oninaki,
Oninaki.
and I'm probably saying that incorrectly. I saw the official Kotaku explanation in the review on how to say Oninaki, and I was like, I have not been saying it like that, and I think I'm just going to keep on saying it like I am now, because at this point, I've been saying it this way for 8 months. I'm not going to change. But Eric, I know that you were not the biggest fan of the demo. Do you want to quickly summarize your thoughts on that again, so we can kind of have a
I mean,
starting place?
I'll start off saying I didn't hate the demo. There are some positive qualities to it. I mean, the presentation looks a lot better than the first two games Tokyo RPG Factory made. I do like the colors and stuff like that. Um, and the music can be good. Sometimes it's a little too somber for my taste, and like when I played that demo, I fell asleep so many times. Like just like the first two Tokyo RPG Factory games, I don't know what's up with their music, but it makes me fall asleep all the time.
Man, oh man. So, like, I was a little bit more. This game appealed to me a little bit more than I think it did to you. I do get where you're coming from with the music, because a lot of times they try to make this like super sad music. And when there's nothing sad happening on the screen that you're connected to, it's really just great sleeping music. It'll just put you right to sleep. I had that problem with Lost Sphere. I fell asleep a couple times playing it. I would put the game down to go do something else, like organize my closet. Like I, I was like finding activities to do other than play that game, because it was just so boring. But there's something about this game that I actually really liked it. To be honest, I think personally that this is probably, of the three Tokyo RPG Factory games, from a net positive standpoint, meaning all factors considered, I do think this is probably the best one that I've seen. Now, granted, I haven't like beaten it or anything, but um, I mean, I think I like the music. It had a lot of upbeat tracks. It had a boss battle theme with some like bagpipes and some like electric guitar and stuff that was really catchy. And I think it's obvious that the color palette has been greatly expanded upon. The textures don't seem so low budget as they were compared in the prior. There's a lot of lighting effects, and there's story sequences with cutscenes, and it's clearly a lot higher budget. So I totally dig it on that front. I think that they've done a great job on that front. But I mean, like it's like I'm mixed on the story. I have mixed feelings on the story, and then there's things that are just negative that I really don't like. Like the user interface, I feel is really clunky. Like for example, like the skill tree. If you're trying to choose new like things to level up, like it'll when you press the left arrow button or the D-pad, it'll just like take you to a node that you have no access to at all, instead of going to the next open node. So it makes like getting to a node you want to get to just like extremely frustrating, because you're constantly battling the UI to do stuff that you want to do, or like watch the demon memories that you unlock. You can't watch them unless you're at a save point, which I'm just like, why would you do that? And I feel like they just, I'm sorry, I'm rambling. Go ahead.
Well, what I was just going to add on to your skill tree complaint is that I hate the fact that they hide things that should be key features to the
Yeah.
combat behind that wall, like canceling out something, or evading, or the combat system being faster. It's like, so I have to earn the ability for this game's combat to be good, because the combat is slow. It's slow, boring, in which I get what they were doing. They were kind of trying to be strategic with the combat, but the problem is that there's little to no strategy from what I've seen, and what others have told me who've gone further in the game than the demo,
Hmm.
is that there's still not much, like, you if you know like the right stance or demon or whatever to use, it's like the fight is incredibly easy. And
See, I played
so
it. I,
I just
I
don't get it.
Yeah, I heard that. I heard people saying how easy it was. and so I tried to play it on maniac mode the whole time. I did struggle a little bit with the first boss. I actually died like 3 times just because I was still getting used to using the new demon, and I didn't really have a feel for it yet. But overall, like after that, I didn't die again because I kind of figured out the flow of things. But yeah, man, like I totally get where you're coming from. That like there's this artificial difficulty that the game incorporates into there that isn't really real. It's things like you said, like there's a delay between different skills, and that shouldn't be there, and like you have to unlock nodes to get rid of that delay. One of the most annoying things is when you switch between demons, like there's like a second delay where your character just has to stand still. And I'm like, why are you doing that? And apparently you can unlock a node to make that not happen. And I'm just like, so by the end of the game, it'll be buttery smooth, but I have to like play with bad gameplay until that point. So like I'm frustrated with the gameplay because usually Tokyo RPG Factory's gameplay is on point. Like their turn-based battle systems are actually pretty good. So I don't know what inspired them to go this route, but
I mean, it's fine if they want to go that route, but they should have embraced the hack and slash aspect to it. And I think, and I said it before in the previous podcast, but I think it would have been better if they kind of embraced the Dynasty Warriors aspect a little bit, or the Diablo aspect a little bit, and made it faster paced and just have more enemies come around, and the strategy being how to deal with this overwhelming amount of enemies coming at you.
yeah.
So I think it would have been much more fun in that aspect, and you can just like customize your demons and stuff to decide how you want to go about that, and then you can just make the bosses like over the top and fun. But no, like what they do, and it's a fault of the first two games also, is it's so slow, boring feeling that is the other reason why these games put me to sleep all the time. Like I said, they're not necessarily bad or terrible games. I feel like they're competently made games, but like this feels like, again, a low budget indie title that they're trying to sell me for $50. And again, I'm glad they gave that demo because it more than motivated me not to get it.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I do think the price is way too high, especially when you consider that other lower budget games like Hellblade launched at $30, and then the fact that this is $50, and this I feel this is probably more low budget than that game. And you think for $10 more you'll be able to purchase the Final Fantasy VII remake. $50 is outrageous. I think that if they had launched this at maybe 30 or 25, brand new.
$20.
I know you want 20, but it's a Square Enix title. They're never going to do that. That's going to be the Square Enix tax. And,
I would be so forgiving. I would be so much more forgiving of all these games they make if they were $20. I'd be like, you get what you pay. It's $20, but it definitely feels like a $20 game, which would make me a lot more fair and lenient on it.
Yeah. But I do have to acknowledge, like, I do see a lot of critics saying that this is more of the same for Tokyo RPG Factory. And I just don't think that that's necessarily completely fair, because they've really taken some extra huge strides here with their presentation. And like, for me personally, so far with the story, I've been actually pretty captivated with like the premise, more so than I was with Setsuna, and definitely more so with Lost Sphere. I really think they've done a good job with that front. So I do think they are making progress, but I have mixed feelings with the story because, like, on one hand, like, okay, like whenever you're telling a fantasy type of story, like there's all sorts of components to that that are important. But one of the biggest things is you have to set up like what are the rules of your world, right? So if you think about something we all know, like Superman, like what are the rules with Superman, right? Well, you know that he's weak to kryptonite and he can't be in two places at one time. So he's invincible, but he has certain limitations. That's why it's interesting because we know those rules. So when the Joker has like Lois Lane on one end of the city and, a school bus full of children on the other side of the city that's fallen off a cliff, it's like, what is Superman going to do? Because he can't be in two places at once. So you have to firmly establish that type of stuff in order to create conflict with the main character. And in this game, I feel like they did a great job in the beginning, maybe half hour, setting up this world in which, when people die, like in order to be reincarnated, the people they can't grieve for you because it keeps your soul here. They have to let go. Otherwise, you'll be either turned into a demon or reincarnated as a monster, and you have to be at peace to be able to go. And Kagachi, the main character, his job is to help guide these souls, and it's very captivating because in one of the opening scenes, like, and I don't want mean to spoil the game, it's the first half hour, but there's this family that their child died, and Kagachi's trying to guide the child back to the other side, and he just wants to see his parents one more time. So he takes the child to go see the parents, and during that course of that interaction, Kagachi's like, "Hey, you guys are like holding on to this," and he won't leave. And the kid starts crying, and the mom finds out the kid's crying, and she's like, "I'm sorry, like I just can't let this go." Which, why would you? Why would you expect a mom to be able to let go the fact that their child died? And she's like, "Just kill me so I can go join my son." And then the husband's like, "Well, screw it. I'm not going to lose my wife and my kid. Kill me too." And then Kagachi's like, "All right," and he kills him. And I'm like, oh my God, that, like, for a Tokyo RPG Factory game, this is like very bold and very like they really took a chance with this story. This was not a generic safe story for them. Definitely not generic at all. But the problem is they set up this rules with this world that's really interesting. And I feel like the story would be so much more interesting if they would focus on the idea that, like, that's kind of messed up, that people aren't even allowed to grieve for their loved ones. But instead, the game's like focusing on Kagachi's backstory and with his parents and stuff. And maybe it'll take that way further in the game, but I feel like there's so much missed opportunity here. And that's kind of what I'm seeing with people that have finished the game, is that the story just gets disappointing towards the end. So it's just, I feel like they were almost there with a great game, but like, I don't know if it just came out too soon or what, but they just missed the mark with this.
They have good ideas behind them story wise. I think they just need better writers.
Yeah. I mean, the pacing's all messed up and all sorts of stuff. It has problems, but I think that this game is actually overall not that bad of a game. Like, I think it is a pretty good game. It's just not $50. And I think that maybe 5 years from now, when you start seeing this game for $10 and people are just picking it up like, whatever, $10, I'll buy it. I think you'll see this resurgence for, people that really like this game, because it has some really cool ideas, like you were saying. It's just, man, $50, that's a lot to spend on this game.
Also, over this game, someone confirm me if I'm wrong, but I didn't notice it much in the demo because I thought it was like, maybe there's more to it after the demo. But apparently there's not a big difference between playing the game in the living realm and and then going to the darker realm where all the dead are. Apparently there's no difference going through there, and the only difference is the type of monsters that pop in there instead of it like being like an actual mechanic to the game.
Well,
That's what I've heard some people say, but I would, someone who played it, want to give clarification on that.
Well, just like you said, that there's this ability to fight different types of monsters that have like a certain importance in the world, but also that's how you communicate with the dead, which is, I think, a major premise with the game. But I see what you're saying from a gameplay standpoint. They could have done more with like the hack and slash element if they had more to do with this. I mean, yeah, that part I think is a worthy criticism, but they do reuse a lot of different enemies in this game. That, like, they really don't, like, you pretty much fight the same types of enemies the most of the game. So it's I don't know.
If I ever see this game below $20 or below, I'll give it a fair shot. But they screwed me over in the first two games, and I paid $50 for them at the time. I'm not going to do that again.
I paid $20 for I Am Setsuna. I loved it. I've thought about replaying it a few times. Lost Sphere, I spent $50 on that, and it was one of the most generic. I've played better RPG Maker games than than Lost Sphere. It was very uninspired to me. So,
yeah, most definitely.
Lane's saying apparently the PC version of Oninaki is the only 60 frames per second version. Surprised PS4 didn't have that. So I played the PS4 version, and it wasn't bad by any means. I didn't know that though. I'm not one of these people that can just sit there and play a game and be like, oh yeah, like I know what this is moving at. But I can tell when you go from spending 50 hours with the game in 60 FPS and then you go down and play it in 30, that's very obvious. But like judging it from the get-go, it's not always the easiest for me. But it ran smooth enough on the PS4. So anyways. But anybody, I know there was some people on our Discord that bought it, or at least one person, and he really liked it. So I'd be interested to hear if they still like it, because I've heard that this game, if you like the demo, I've heard that all the way up to about the 15-hour mark, it kind of keeps that pace. But then, past the 15-hour mark, the game's about 25 to 30 hours. Past the 15-hour mark, it apparently is like goes back to standard Tokyo RPG Factory style, where it's just like super generic, predictable plot line, lots of plot holes. It's almost like they just were like, okay, this story's getting too good. We're gonna make it crappy again. So I'm just curious to see what people think, because I haven't heard anyone that said after that point it was great. So, anyways, so I think that about covers Oninaki. You got anything else you want to say?
No, I think I'd be a broken record at this point.
Yeah. Anyways, so one piece of news that came out today that we were talking about on Discord is the team that's been remastering a lot of different games. They're called Blue Point Games. Most recently, they did Shadow of the Colossus in the PS4.
Fantastic remaster / remake.
Yeah, they did a great job with that. But one of the developers for that studio, its leading projects, was talking about the Legend of Dragoon on Twitter, kind of talking with some people on Twitter about how cool it would be to do that and how much he would want, or how he thinks they should do that. But the way he phrased it kind of made people think that perhaps there's more to it than him just chatting fans up on Twitter about the Legend of Dragoon. It was the technical director, Peter Dalton. And let me see if I can pull up his tweets so that way we have some context here. I'm on Game Rant right now.
Essentially what happened in that Twitter conversation, someone came up to him, like a fan or whatnot, came up and asked if there was any interest in the if they liked the Legend of Dragoon series. And he pretty much replied back like, yes, I love Legend of Dragoon, and I am actually and I would be very interested in remaking / remastering that game. And he kind of just goes on gushing about the game for a little bit, and he pretty much expresses open interest in delving back into that series for Sony. Now, before anyone thinks anything, this isn't in any way, shape, or form a confirmation that a remake / remaster is happening.
E3 next year, bro.
But hey, never know. But these developers are very famous for doing Sony projects for remakes and remasters for stuff in the past. So Legend of Dragoon is owned by Sony. So if it's sparking interest, it may motivate the the head of this company to approach Sony and be like, hey, uh, there's some demand here for Legend of Dragoon in the RPG community.
Let's do this.
What can we do about remastering or remaking this? But since we talk about that, that makes me wonder, do you think this game could be fine enough with a remaster and some tweaks, or do you think this is the type of game that could benefit more from a full-on remake? Because I'm kind of more in the latter than the former myself.
Okay, so to answer your question, I think that I'm in the middle. Like, I think a remake, like a full-on remake, would be really cool. And if I had to choose and they were just going to do whatever I said, I would say completely remake the game, because that would be awesome. But I think it's more realistic for them to do an HD remaster or a remaster of some sort. And the reason that I'm kind of leaning towards there has to be something going on somewhere is, as we all know, recently there was the PS Classic that was released. And one of the problems with the PlayStation Classic was that like the PlayStation had so many great games, but Sony didn't own any of these games, right? A lot of them were third-party games. So there was all sorts of issues with licensing, with getting games on the PS Classic. So there was a lot of games that were missing. Well, The Legend of Dragoon is a game that Sony owns. They wouldn't have to pay anybody royalties. Like, they own the game. And that was not put on the PS Classic. Now, when I look at that, I think, why would you do that, Sony? That's a very popular game. Why would you not do that? And it has to be, in my mind, I'm thinking that they didn't want to put The Legend of Dragoon on the PS Classic, because if they were going to remaster it, people would say, oh, I already got it on the PS Classic, and it's apparently 60 FPS on there. Like they don't want to just give it away for that price. I know you could spin it the other way and say, well, they put it on there, it would get more interest in the title. But I'm looking at it, and they've had opportunities to give you a version of it like that, and they didn't take it up on it. So it makes me think they have to be working on something.
No, I do have to remind myself, this is a development company that does remasters more than full-on remakes. Now, granted, they go above and beyond in their remasters to the point that you would think it's a remake, like Shadow of the Colossus. But I'm trying to think, if you remaster this game, you obviously have to update the character models. The backgrounds would need to be up-res, like they didn't do for FF. No, well, FF9 particularly,
Oh yeah, 9,
for example, did not get that background treatment. So they would have to do that.
This is hurting my soul, because when I bought The Legend of Dragoon on the PlayStation, one of my biggest compliments of the game was how good the graphics looked. And like, now that like we're at this point in 2019 where we have to say, well, it's looking pretty dated, like we need to update this, like, you know, it's come full circle. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
But I don't know. I think you would just need to obviously update the combat system so the timing of your attacks is more precise. Because that is one thing with the game, is that sometimes input lag can get in the way. That's more prominent in the emulated versions of the game than the main one itself. But even the main version of itself did kind of have that trouble time to time. So if they did some strong revisions to the battle system, and the most important thing, even if I'll mention this first, maybe redo the voice acting for the cutscenes. For that sometimes they have those CGI scenes. Maybe maybe replace the voice actors with someone else. Update it. But most important thing is give us more than 30 inventory slots for the game.
Yeah.
God, that was so mind-numbingly annoying that you can only carry 30 items, and your ability to heal in the game is very limited. So I understand there's some strategic element there, but that was just the strategic element was go buy healing breezes. and just like and then maybe a little bit of the anecdotes and stuff like that. Oh man, that part I did not like.
Yeah, like when they remaster these games, sometimes I feel that they're almost they either go one way or the other. Sometimes they take out content that I really really liked, or they make like they change the game so much that like it's almost a completely different game, like they did with the Zodiac Age, where they completely ripped out what was there before for the battle system, and they really put something new in there. And then other times they're so like consistent to the original, almost to the point where you wish they had gone further and like went ahead and updated some of those things. And in this game, like you said, with the the item limitations, but also with the voice acting, like a lot of these older games are great, but they had just like very low budget for voice actors and really crappy audio equipment. And like a lot of times they would use different microphones, and Sally would record hers in her kitchen, and then Joe would record his in his bedroom, and like it's not the same environment, so like it doesn't sound like they're in the same room.
They'll
And
just get on their phone in the office building and be like, "Hey, Dale, yeah, can you get Dale from
speakerphone.
accounting up here? Here, yeah." They even put the phone up to the microphone and be like, "Hey, say this line." Be like, "Perfect, we'll put it in the game."
Read this email out loud. Yeah.
Perfect.
So it's just stuff like that where I'm like, okay, you don't have to take that stuff out, but if you're gonna like redo the game, if you do kind of polish those things up and maybe re-record that stuff, but if people, like still give people the option to play it with the old stuff if they're like really nostalgic about it as well. I don't think you can go wrong, and like there's really a reason to go back and play these even more so because you updated that. One of the coolest things I think Square did is when they remade basically from the ground up Kingdom Hearts, and they got rid of that god awful PS2 controls, and it's so much where you can't really move the camera and stuff like that. It's very very clunky to play Kingdom Hearts 1 on the PlayStation 2, but in the remaster, it's completely like not an issue anymore. Like they fixed the controls. It's just a lot smoother. So like stuff like that, like I'm a fan of. Keep the heart of the game there, but if there's things that have kind of gotten out of date, like you don't need to keep that in there just to be consistent with the original. Get rid of that stuff.
I have faith this company, if they were handed the project, they would
Blue Point Games.
they would skin this game inside out and go deep into the data and modernize whatever they could. I think they're that passionate with these remasters and remakes that they'll dive deep into the system, be like, okay, what was something that's very outdated in the original that we need to greatly update and modernize in this one.
Yeah. But anyways, we'll have to see what comes of this. I saw BioPhoenix say that as cool as it would be to happen, stuff like this has happened before where they say they want to do something, but nothing happens. He pointed out he remembers when the creator of Xenosaga said he wanted to make an HD port of the modern consoles versions, but nothing came of it. Which
not popular demand, apparently.
Yeah.
Because that's pretty much how you need to show it. If you want a Legend of Dragoon remaster, then you should motivate other people to get on what was it, Twitter, and not in a harassing way, but like in a constructive, positive manner, to show your support for the team and be like, hey, if you do this remaster, you will get a guaranteed $60 out of me.
You know who's I mean, I think honestly you're onto something there because like, and I hate to bring this back to Square Enix, but that just came to my mind. There were so many people tweeting at Square like, how come you haven't remastered Final Fantasy VIII in the same way that you did all these other games? And they ended up putting in the extra work to go make that happen just because they were getting so much heat on social media. And then also all their remasters of their Final Fantasy games had so many bugs that weren't in the original versions of the games, and people were just harassing them like nonstop recently with these Switch releases. Like, what WTF Square, why are you not fixing these bugs? And like all of a sudden Square started responding on social media like, okay, we're fixing it. We're fixing all the bugs and all the versions of the games across the board. The PlayStation, the PC, the PS4, the Switch version, we're fixing it. So, a lot of times you guys think like tweeting at the company and stuff, like they're not going to notice, but if enough people are doing it, a lot of times, it'll get their attention. So it's worth doing.
Yeah, I think that project's completely worth pursuing because I do think there's an audience for it. I mean, you got almost 100 million PS4s out there. And if you do this and make it, I mean, obviously the PS5 would probably be out about the time they started the project and finished it, hypothetically, even if they started like right now.
Well, the problem is I feel like this game, like an HD remaster of this game would be perfect for the Nintendo Switch, but obviously that's not going to happen because it's a Sony game. So it's kind of in that window where would it sell well enough on the PS4 or PS5? They don't, it's kind of like they're not sure, but
I think if it happened, I think it would be PS4 and PS5. Like they would offer like it's like one game, but if you play on the PS4, it may have like lesser graphical features, and PS5 has better features because they already said the PS4 games are going to be able to be played on the PS5. So
it's exciting. So
seems like you can just like make it for both, and there you go.
Easy.
Or hopefully, maybe there's like a second Vita that comes out, and it's a remaster for a portable system.
That would be cool. I would be all about that.
Mm-hmm.
They just announced the they can call it the Vita Next, and have a launch title of a Legend of Dragoon.
Yeah, that'd be perfect title to launch with it because, I mean, people, especially handheld players, love their JRPGs on the go.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna transition over to you because we got these RPGs coming out in 2019, and there's a lot of them. So let me get some of the trailers up here, and we're gonna just go through the 16 games that are coming out in September. Good God. And I'm just going to forewarn everybody, we will not be able to purchase all these and play all of them. So
I might be able to purchase one or two of them, maybe at most.
Yeah. So I got the playlist here with trailers. I don't know if we're going in that order, but whichever ones you start off with, I'll go ahead and click on. The first one, there's Sin Slayers, but
well, the source we are using is RPGsite.net's list of RPGs, and they do a really good job updating it whenever there's dates announced. Like Final Fantasy VIII Remastered got announced for September 3rd, and like next day the title was updated on that list.
Yeah, they do a really good job with that.
So the first one they have up here, we're going pretty much by date. The earliest one to come out. The first one is Children of Morta. And I saw the trailer for that.
This game looks awesome, dude.
The graphical presentation, or like the presentation of the art style, the aesthetics, look absolutely nuts. Like this is a gorgeous looking game, no doubt. I still don't really know what it's about and what you do, but
it reminds me of Hyper Light Drifter in a way, the art style, but it's a little more detailed.
I thought the same thing. Actually, I thought the same exact thing.
Yeah, but dude, this looks so good. I'm with you. I don't really know what the premise is or anything, but there's something about it that just makes me think that with graphics that look this stylish, and like I'm not playing the music right now because I don't want our podcast to get flagged. But
you put 3 seconds of that music in there, they'll take our video down.
Dude, I still have PTSD from when I had to hack out like an 8-minute section of our podcast one time because I played something from Sakaguchi's new project on the Apple console. I can't remember what it's called, but anyways, something tells me with music that's this good and like the presentation element with how stylistic the graphics are and everything, like I just feel that like the story can't be bad either. Like I know that doesn't make any sense, but I'm like, all the pieces are here. it has to be, it has to be good. It has to be. And even if it's not a good story, like it still looks like it's a great visual eye candy game to play.
It might be one of those games where there's no dialogue and
You have to like
like they
figure it out.
express everything through animation
When,
and
whenever
like
I see
expressions.
whenever I see games like that, there's not too many of them, but I sometimes think maybe they didn't even make a story and they're just like laughing while people try to figure out like what's going on.
Yeah.
You know.
I
But
mean, I love Hyper Light Drifter. Are these the same people who made it? Like the character models and stuff look so similar.
it's from
Dead
11.
Mage.
Okay.
Dead
From
Mage is the group that made it.
Red Mage. Okay.
Dead Mage.
Oh, Dead Mage. If it's I guarantee you at the very least they were influenced by them.
Dead Mage. Dead Mage. Dead Mage.
It looks like it's gonna
website.
looks like it's gonna be available on September 3rd on Steam. And then October 15th on, Xbox, PS4, and Switch. Dude, a Switch version of this game is gonna be awesome.
I think I'll wait for a Switch version for this game, but it does look really good. The other games they made were Tale of Ronin, Shadowblade Reload, Epic Kings, Shadowblade Garshap, and another Garshap game, which I haven't heard any of these before, but
yeah.
I mean, but this game in particular looks really good. I mean, it's a shame there's not a Switch version yet, but I mean, I'll be all over that. Oh, I guess another one, 11-bit Studios. Let me look at that. 11-bit.
I was going to say, because that's who uploaded it, but I don't know if that's the actual developer.
Yeah, they're not. There's no Hyper Light Drifter associated with it. So I guess it's just a coincidence they look similar.
Yeah. Regardless, it looks really good. What else we got?
Final Fantasy VIII Remastered.
Boom.
Yeah, I mean, everything for the most part looks the same so far, except you'll have the
updated character models.
Updated character models, which I think look pretty good. I think they made Squall look a little younger.
Yeah, they did. Which
I don't care much for. But then again, he's technically 17, even though they all act like they're in their mid-20s. And like,
yeah, think about this. So I think in Kingdom Hearts 3, right, Sora is supposed to be 16, I believe. He may be 15, or I think he's 16 though. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's 16. So consider that. Now consider the fact that Squall is supposed to be 1 year older than him. That is just blows my mind. I'm having a brain aneurysm because you're right. He doesn't act like he's 17. He acts like he's like in his mid 20s.
At most they come off as like college graduates.
Yeah.
Like they're just like I would even.
Besides, occasionally you'll see things like calling Zell a chicken wuss. I'm like, okay, I don't think I ever used chicken wuss, but I definitely didn't use it in my 20s.
Yeah.
But this remaster, man, this thing looks spectacular, I think. And what I really like is it looks like they not only redid the battle sprites and the character sprites, or I keep saying sprites, but models, so that he actually has a face. But in the battle itself, it looks like they have the original like UI, so you don't have crappy like touch button controls, which is a lot of times what you get. I guess you wouldn't get that for this because I don't know if there's a mobile version of this game, but
I think there isn't a mobile version. I think there might eventually be one, but I think the reason there isn't one now is because the limit breaks in the game. Some of them are very button focused, and I don't know if they wanted to take the time to make a touch interface specifically for them. Like I know Squalls in particular, you have to do Renzo Kuken, which is timing the hits to be most effective. And I know for Zell's, remind me on Zell's. Zell's was kind of similar to Tifa, where you had to do like button combinations.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it's been a while, and Zell's not necessarily my favorite character either. So I usually take him out of the party once I have the ability to. but
I know.
that sounds right.
Well,
Regardless, September 3rd, dude, I'm kind of disappointed we're not getting a physical edition, but I'm really happy with the way this looks, and I definitely want to pick it up. Do we know how much this is going to cost yet?
$20.
See, come on, come on. That's a great price. Square, you
I think it's worth it, particularly because I see where the effort was made for this remaster.
yeah.
It's
So
obvious. It's very obviously there. So I think the $20 for it is more than fair price for it.
yeah, because apparently they had to like locate all the old code off like old PCs and stuff, and like really like piece it together, and then they redid the character models to make it look a little more spruced up and stuff. So
Not only that, I think I should look up on screenshots again to make sure, but I think they upres the background some. Fantasy H3
in the trailer I'm watching, they really don't show any backgrounds. They show a lot of like battle footage, because I think they're really trying to show off the fact that like the enemy designs and such were redone, and they show a lot of FMV stuff, but they don't show a lot of him like walking around town and stuff, which I get it. It's not that exciting, but regardless, like
Yeah, and now that you bring that up, I think they really don't show you just like walking around playing, unless
well,
I'm missing the video.
and that's not really the exciting part of the show in the trailer, like
I mean the battle areas look good, but then again, those are 3D areas. They're not backdrops for the
this looks
battles.
yeah, this looks really good.
Yeah, I don't see where they're just walking around. Are there screenshots? Are they intentionally hiding
So
this?
so check it out though. Recently, Joker says they did not upres the background. A stupid decision. Yeah, but what are you gonna do?
Okay,
But
well, I take that back then. Still bad Square Enix for that, but they still did greatly update the character models, and obviously they had to revise and redo a lot of code to get this game up and going. So I think it's worth 20.
yeah, but I mean, I know that Square sent out a screenshot of there was a meme going around a year or two ago where Renoa says, "You're the best looking guy here" at that dance, and then it's a picture of Squall with his like garbled
Yeah.
face. Well, Square retweeted that out recently with the remaster where she says, "You're the best looking guy here," but like with his new model, and he actually has a face. So, at least
It's like, oh God, he's handsome.
yeah, but I mean that I think that if I remember correctly, that was the model that one of the models you used to like walk around and stuff, and it definitely looked a lot better too. So, regardless, this is going to look this looks great. So I'm excited to play it.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna play. I've actually been holding out on playing FF8 again so long because I felt like I knew I had I definitely had my doubts of a remaster coming out, but I felt like deep in my gut that they'll do something one day. Just hold out, and they did.
Yeah. What else do we got?
The I don't think the other ones we'll talk about as much, but there's Warsaw for PC coming September 4th.
Okay.
And Sin Slayers on September 5th. That looked like another like dungeon diving type game.
Okay, Sin Slayers, I don't get it. It's got some like electric guitar music, which is kind of cool, but I don't like it. Looks just like a dungeon loot type game, so I'm not too interested in that. And then Warsaw was, I can pull that up real quick. This game looked sweet. Like I'm like it's got like this very like, okay, you're in the middle of a war, and like it's this whole cinematic like anime type opening, but it's very like 1940ish vibes, and it's got some woman with like a narration over it. I can't. I'm not playing it right now, but you all should go check out the regular trailer. It looks really really cool. I don't know anything else about this game other than this trailer, but it looked really really cool. So
Yeah, it doesn't show any gameplay.
well, I mean, at the end of the trailer, you can kind of see some like screenshots and stuff. and it looks like some like turn-based combat, and all of a sudden it doesn't look as exciting. But regardless, it looks like a unique idea, so I like that. What else we got?
The next one is Monster Hunter World expansion Iceborne.
Uh-oh.
I mean, it's a doozy of an expansion. And it's basically you getting an almost sequel sized
Well,
game with it. And
doesn't it
if
have
you're a
Aloy
Monster
in it?
Hunter fan, what it?
Doesn't it have Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn in it?
Yeah, I believe they're doing a special event with her, similar to like they did with Geralt, the Witcher.
Yeah.
I think they're doing like a collaborative event
Dude,
like that.
those two are so like that just makes sense to do a collaboration with. Like it's almost like that was just meant to be Geralt of Rivia, whose job is to hunt monsters. And
It
then
really makes sense for Horizon. Also, she's a
yeah.
huntress herself.
Yeah, so I'm just like, dude, this works perfect. That's awesome.
Yeah. Then but if you're a Monster Hunter fan, then you obviously know that's coming. If you've never played a Monster Hunter game before, Monster Hunter World is as good as it gets right now for the series, and it's very welcoming to newcomers. So if you want to get into those type of games, it's really good. The one thing is that the game is built primarily around grind and killing the same monsters over and over to get better gear.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of satisfaction and rewarding feeling for doing so. And these bosses are just like they're very, very well thought out. Like you need to you got to really read the enemy's movements and learn how it works. And the game gets really hard, especially in the upper content. You will die a lot, but at the same time, you will learn a lot. And when you beat a monster in that game that was really hard to beat, it feels so good. So
Yeah, I mean,
if you're into those type of games, it's like this is the expansion for it. You can get the main game right now and start catching up.
oh, you can get the main game. I saw it at GameStop for used for like $10. So I mean, I think that's a steal.
Yeah, and almost all their content they release is free. The new content, like the only things they really charge you for are expansions like this one. But they are pretty much full games in themselves.
Very cool. What day is that coming out?
September 6th.
Very cool. What else we got?
Greedfall, September 10th.
Some people in the chat were talking about this game. Man, I've watched this trailer a couple times. I've seen some stuff written on it. This looks really, really good. I really like the era it's in. It's like looks like kind of 1600s ish, maybe. But
you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, the audio cut off again.
Well, that's not good.
You want to repeat what you said real quick?
No, I just seen some people point out that hey, this kind of reminded them of some Fable type combat, and then also sometimes people felt like some of the images and stuff made them remember a Dragon Age and games like that. So I don't know. It looks really, really good, but I'm just kind of in the middle right now on it. So
yeah, it doesn't look like a very high budget game. It looks like a PS3 game, but the coloring, the lighting, the art style, and everything, I'm really down for. It looks really good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if this game was Fable-like, then it would definitely catch my interest. But I think I'll just wait and see how the game fares with other people, and maybe I'll get it on sale one day.
Yeah. What else do we got here?
I'm going to try to pronounce this the best I can. Uta Werumano-zan.
Oh, yeah. Dude. Okay. I'll put on the music for like half a second, but okay, so it's very techno-ish, and this looks like it's like anime Dynasty Warriors with techno music. I don't know how I feel about that, but
I saw a meme about this and I didn't get it but now I get it. Is like someone posted a meme after watching this trailer, and they said my neighbors loved the music to Otto Mono Zan so much that they threw a brick through my window so they could hear it better.
Yeah, man. This game's unique for sure. I don't know. There's apparently like a fan base for this. Like apparently it's a series and people really dig it. It's very odd in the way it's presented, but I could see people getting into this. It's not my cup of tea, but
it looks like a mix of like Dynasty Warriors and the those Senran Kagura games they release all the time.
BioPhoenix says he played the first game on the Vita, and he says it's a tactical RPG, but it was very slow paced. I'm not surprised you played the first game, BioPhoenix.
I think they ramped up the pace a little bit.
Yeah, it's very, very much
slow and strategic. Okay,
but yeah, BioPhoenix is the master of obscure games. He's just very knowledgeable on that type of stuff.
Yeah, man, and he posts stuff on our Discord, and I'm like, I've never seen this before. I am fascinated, but I've never seen it.
Yeah. Y'all should go check out his YouTube channel. He's got some great stuff on there. But anyways, I don't know how to pronounce this. But like you, I don't know how to say this.
I'll try one more time. Uta Warumanozan. Uta Warumanozan. You try saying that.
Guess they're not going for a Western audience.
Don't think so. Next one on the list is on September 11th, Queen's Wish: The Conqueror.
This game is not something I'm interested in at all. It's very like retro, like reminds me of Ultima kind of, but like with like I don't know, some kind of sim type element to it. I don't know. But
yeah, this is for very old school fans of RPGs.
Yeah.
Like early 90s PC Western RPG type deal here.
Yeah, I mean, it looks cool, and I can respect it on that front. And if people say it's really good, then maybe I could see myself giving it a shot. But I don't know, man.
You can. They're obviously not trying to. They're obviously pandering to a very niche audience with this, like the small group of people who have a nostalgia for this type of game. So yeah. I mean, it could be good for that type of player. I never got too big into these type of games, so this is probably something that's going to skip me easily.
What else? Well, first off, what day is this coming out? For anyone that might be
September 11th.
September 11th. Okay. Oh, that's a terrible day to come out.
Next on here, we have a remaster of Ni no Kuni: Wrath of the White Witch for PS4, PC, and Switch.
I'm going to pick this up because I never played the first game. So I'm interested in trying it.
It is an amazing RPG. I mean, I love the game from start to finish. It's got Studio Ghibli magic all over it. And I definitely want to replay it again one day. But that one I'm going to wait till it's on sale. Like when it has like a big sale for it, then maybe I'll play through it again because I definitely have enough to play right now.
See, I've been on this kick lately where like I've kind of gotten over the honeymoon stage with like with the Switch, with like, oh, it'll play on the Switch, so I'll get the Switch because I'll go look on YouTube and I'll see like, well, what does it look like on my PS4 Pro? And like, I don't know why I do that because it always looks just a tad bit sharper on the PS4. And so I'm kind of in the middle on which version I want to play, but I'm leaning towards the Switch still because of this art style. I don't think it needs to be super sharp, and it'll still be a remaster. And the fact that I'll be able to play it portably, I think is really appealing. So,
yeah. Yeah, I highly recommend you get that game. I don't know much more to say about it. I mean, it's even has like level 5 behind it, who just knows how to turn like an anime-ish look like Studio Ghibli into a video game just like effortlessly.
Yeah, it's really cool. So it was that September 20th, I think.
September 20th. Same day as the Link's Awakening remake, so you know which one I'm obviously getting that day.
Oh, so you're getting Ni no Kuni then, huh? Okay.
Oh, no way. Not over Zelda.
Ni no Kuni.
Next one on the list is the Surge 2. I've never heard
I
of the
don't
Surge
have the
1.
trailer up for that, but I've never even heard of that. Is it?
Surge 2 game. It is. It's very graphical.
It's
Well,
very
it's like high
graphical.
graph.
Yeah.
And I mean, it looks like a high budget game.
Yeah.
Kind of looking at the video right now.
Okay, so I pulled some footage up of it. Let's pull this up.
It looks like Halo Dark Souls. Like it looks like he's wearing Master Chief armor. Then
I don't know.
yeah,
I'm not picking this game up. Like it looks cool, but there's something. It looks. I don't want to
it looks
sound
like a
hipster.
futuristic Dark Souls is what it looks like.
Yeah.
The gameplay footage I'm watching right now, he's taking on a boss, and just the way you do combos and dodge around the field and everything, and it's very Dark Souls. It seems like very inspired
Yeah.
by them.
BioPhoenix says in the comments, "Oh, the Surge is like a future-setting Dark Souls game. Pretty solid from what I played." So,
Oh, well, there you go.
what day is this
So
coming
like I
out though?
said, it is coming out September 24th. And also coming out September 24th is a game called Cat Quest 2.
This game is preposterous. Okay, I got the trailer up. Dude, this looks like this should be on a cell phone, but it's coming out on the PS4.
I mean, the presentation's pretty top notch.
Yeah, dude, it's got 25,000 views on the trailer. I'm surprised. And people are like, "Man, a sequel? All right." It looks just like crazy though. There's a part of me that kind of wants to pick it up, but I'm not playing this on my PS4.
I mean, it's very adorable looking.
Yeah, this needs to come out on the
I don't see
Switch.
enough cat puns though.
Yeah.
Or partner up. Oh, never mind. Here we go. There's the cat puns. But yeah, that looks like a very obscure game itself. We have a series of Baldur's Gate games coming out on the 27th remasters. Baldur's Gate 1, Baldur's Gate 2, and Baldur's Gate Siege of Dragonspear, and all coming out the same day on the 24th
and
for PS4, Xbox One, and Switch.
And Planescape Torment as well, right?
Planescape Torment as well down here. Yep, all coming out, and Icewind Dale, all coming out on the same day.
So this is what I don't get. Like these are really good games, but all of these games take like 50 to 80 hours to some of them like over 100 hours to get through. And so to put them all out on the same day is just like almost overwhelming. Cuz like you'd think they would spread it out like across like they did with the Final Fantasy games where it's like okay, like this one's coming out this month, next one's coming out next month, one after that's coming out. But I know that Baldur's Gate 3 is coming out soon, so maybe this was just like, oh yeah, we should probably do this, and then they just put them all out at the same time. I don't know, but
at least they didn't put them all in one collection.
oh yeah,
Yeah, like if you only have fondness for like one of them, it's just like okay, just play that one. Like you don't have to buy the whole thing. You can just buy this one game instead. But if you're a big fan of those, they're all getting remastered coming out. I played Baldur's Gate 2 in particular, and I really enjoyed that game. I played that on my tablet, actually. And the touchscreens are surprisingly well made.
Yeah, Second Entity asks, are they all part of one pack? I believe Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 are separate, but then I think they combined Planescape Torment with Icewind and Dale, I think. I don't know. I would have to check up on that to be sure. But I believe they're separate, so.
The next one we have after those is Stygian Reign of the Old Ones coming on September 26th.
Real quick, I'm sorry. Yes, Planescape Torment and Icewind Dale are going to be together as one pack. And then Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 come together as one game. So I was a little bit right and a little bit wrong with that. So you can get those two combined.
Well,
anyways, keep going.
This is a point and click adventure, Sega and Reign of the Old Ones, coming in September 26th. This is I mean, this looks like your basic point and click, but I think what the selling point is the art style here, which is very. I don't even know what to call this type of art style.
I like the background, like it looks very detailed, but I hate when they have these they try to go with this realistic looking character sprite and it like I don't know, it doesn't work in this 2D fashion like this for me personally because I can't see like the expression on the faces and stuff. Um but
It
I
looks like early. It looks like 1920s, 1930s era game.
I dig the horror aspect of it. I think you're right with that era. It kind of reminds me of like a Shadow's Heart type vibe where it's like very satanic and mid like horror themed in like early 1900s, but I don't know. There's something about it where I'm like, oh, I don't know. This doesn't look like this is my cup of tea.
Yeah. So next we have on the list is Dragon Quest 11, the Switch version coming September 27th.
Yep.
I believe we already talked pretty extensively about this one
Yes.
just a little while ago. Um, Code Vein is also coming out September 27th. And that is one some people have been waiting for. It's Bandai Namco in-house making a Dark Souls like game. It's not from software, but it's like Dark Souls, but the anime aspect is just like ramped up significantly.
Looks like Devil May Cry kind of in a way. It just reminds me a lot of that. But
It's got a lot of edgy anime looking stuff in there. I mean, some of this stuff looks cool, and the game I think might be real fun if everything's just like built well. But aesthetically, it's not very pleasing to me comparatively to something like Dark Souls. But I think there will be an audience for this one for sure.
yeah. Yeah, it looks really cool. And yeah, it's got good presentation. I just don't know what the premise is or anything like that, but it's got definitely good presentation. So
The next one we have on here is on the same day, September 27th, Astelia.
this is an online game that looks like a copycat of Final Fantasy 14.
How dare they?
Dude, I'm surprised that there are still like I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but like it must be really hard for MMOs now to because they're not as trending like they used to be. They're really like these more high budget ones to become a thing because you have competition from like established franchises like Final Fantasy and then World of Warcraft are coming out with the classic edition soon and there's all sorts of like you have the Elder Scrolls online game and it's just it must be really hard to try to fit yourself in there and still
To be fair to this game, it kind of looks more towards a Korean style looking MMO than FF14, but I think it's actually pretty ballsy to release an MMO in this day and age without having a established name behind it.
Yeah.
Because MMOs are kind of a dying breed, but games like Final Fantasy 14 are like the grand exception to that. There are very few MMOs that are still running like with a large audience to them, and that's like Final Fantasy 14, Guild Wars 2, World of Warcraft. Even though World of Warcraft's number has been dwindling, but World of Warcraft has the classic mode coming out this month, and that's been sparking people's interest greatly again.
Yeah,
So,
that's kind of what I was getting at. Is just you don't have
Astelia
any.
picked a really bad timing because Shadowbringers came out in that last month, and WoW Classics coming out this month. I don't see much. This is bad timing for this game. I think
This would have been great maybe like 10 years ago or 12 years ago, but yeah, or
I'm
maybe
just
like
looking at the previews. I just don't see what. Like they even like just preach the same things you see all the time. It's like we got awesome PvP, and we're like, okay.
I
Like we've
think
played like a million of these games that have PvP. It's like, what else is
I don't
like?
know if
Is there any other selling point?
I don't know if this game is going to be free to play or if it's going to be, a monthly cost. But I would imagine, given it isn't an established franchise as far as I know,
It'll
that
likely be free to play.
that's what I'm thinking too. So,
Mm-hmm.
anyways,
No,
when's that come out?
27th, I think it was. Yeah, comes out on the 27th.
Oh,
Now, these last two titles don't have a date on them. What we talked about earlier, Grandia HD, coming for the PC. I don't think there is an exact date yet. There might be, but it is supposed to be coming out the month of September.
I'm sorry. What was it called again? I was reading the comments.
Grandia HD.
Oh, yes. Duh. So,
Yeah, no.
yeah, the Grandia HD is coming out next month. I think the updated version Grandia 2, I think that's coming out. I think it's in October. I think. Let me see. I think.
And the last game we have on here that does not have a date either, and I think it might be an early access thing, is Project Everreach Project Eden. And kind of looking through this, it's a high budget game.
All right,
it's very gorgeous looking.
Project Eden.
Kind of reminds me of Mass Effect.
That is not a Mass Effect Andromeda or Mass Effect 1?
Mass Effect 3.
Okay.
Like not Andromeda.
Okay. Let's see.
I mean, it has its own unique art style to it. It's not that similar to Mass Effect, but like the space theme, the looks like it has like RPG mechanics similar to Mass Effect. I mean, it's a good looking game though. I've just never heard of it till now, so it might be. It could potentially be one of those like hidden gems that people don't really discover till like maybe it's out for like a few days or a month.
Yeah, I just pulled up the trailer now. It looks very, very polished. It definitely does not look cheap at all. Games like these, I feel like, are great for trailers, and it just looks, because I'm a sci-fi fan, I'm just like, yes, I want to buy this. But then when you play them a lot of times, it's just like, okay, that trailer, I want to play that game, not this game.
It's going to be PS4, Xbox One, and PC.
Boom. There you go.
I think it's a full game. I take that back. I don't think it's an early access.
This might be pretty good.
But that is it for September. If there's anything we missed, feel free to put them in the comments, and we can bring them up next episode.
Yeah.
This looks like to be the big ones.
Yeah, a lot of games coming out in September, but unfortunately, we're only human, so we won't be able to cover all of them. But let us know what
time is coming.
Yeah.
So maybe you can throw some of those on your Christmas list if you can't get them all. I mean, I know I certainly can. I maybe get, like I said, maybe like during that month, like 1, 2, maybe. Might sell some games I didn't like to get them.
Well, we got some Discord questions. We'll have to hit these semi-quick because we ran a little long here. But we have Joker who says, what are you planning to delve into in the future? And have you played any of the harder games like Dark Souls? I think he's got another question later that we can get to, but that was the oldest question. So let me pass over to you. What are you planning to delve into in the future? And have you played any of the harder games like Dark Souls?
Well, right now I'm playing Battlechasers, which is a fantastic Western meets JRPG type game. And it's something I highly recommend. I'm playing on the Switch right now. They recently released it on mobile. And from what other people have told me, the mobile version is like really good. The touch interface. So that's what I've been doing. Right now, what my future is, I think, until Final Fantasy VIII Remastered comes out. And I want to get that and play through that. Then I'm going to unfortunately probably skip Astral Chain. I might get that around Christmas time. I love Platinum games, but
yeah, it's going to be, dude, that's getting such good reviews right now. It's going to be really tempting to pick that up.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting its usual Platinum. reviews.
Yeah.
From what I see, and I usually really like those games, but I kind of think to myself which one to like. I don't want to get it mixed in because I'll just be throwing other games to the side that I'm already planning on.
Sure.
So I may get that one later down the line, but I'm definitely picking up Link's Awakening. There's no debate there. I mean, it's a Zelda game, have to get it.
Yeah. I'll pick it up.
And then Dragon Quest 11 S, I am going to grab also.
Yeah. Right now I've been playing Grandia 2. I plan on trying to get through that completely before Final Fantasy 8 comes out. I am leaning more towards picking up Astral Chain just because it's getting so many good reviews. But I have to be really cautious here because there are so many games coming out that I could easily just spend $1,000, So I still am thinking about that, but I definitely want to pick it up. Let's see, Dragon Quest 11 on the Switch. I'm going to get that. And then the fact that Ni no Kuni is coming out the same day as Link's Awakening drives me nuts because I've kind of accepted the fact that I'll get Link's Awakening despite not really liking the art style. But we'll have to see on that front. But that's what I'm planning on getting
Beautiful to me, damn
it. Yeah. Harder games like Dark Souls. I like Dark Souls. I've played Dark Souls. I enjoy playing Dark Souls. The only thing is, like, I tend to get a little bored with those games because they focus. This is my opinion, obviously, but they focus so much on the gameplay, which is important, and the gameplay is so tight in those games. I love it, but because I'm not really wrapped up in the premise or the story, I find myself not wanting to spend the extra 2 hours to figure out how to get through a boss. I'm just like, okay, I'm tired of this. Let me go on to something else. But Eric, how do you feel about that stuff?
I love those type of games. I mean, we're just talking about difficult games in general. I love the Dark Souls games for sure, and I really love Bloodborne. I think actually Bloodborne is probably one of the greatest games ever made. Period. I just absolutely loved the offensive approach it took to its gameplay as opposed to Dark Souls, more defensive. That's what kind of made me like Bloodborne a little more than Demon Souls because I just love that form of gameplay. Like a game like Doom, like motivates you to just go in and just rip stuff apart, just go in there and just go crazy. And then you get these cover shooters that are like just cover, then shoot, then cover, then shoot. It's like, right. I just love the offensive approach, those type of games. I love 2D platformers are my jam. So I loved playing games like Ghosts and Goblins. I actually did on a NES, not on the emulator, on the NES beat when I was younger, Ghosts and Goblins You're 8 insane. Times in a row to get that special ending.
Was it that good?
Like, no, you just save the princess and woo! It's kind of like just a showing off you did it type of thing. That's all it really is. But I remember way back then I took like a picture of it on a like an old digital camera,
like a Polaroid.
Yeah, and I love the Castlevania games.
Yeah,
like I bought that Castlevania collection and I just played through the hell out of it. I just loved it. And when they released Rondo of Blood on the PS4, I got up on that. I love those type of games. For difficult games in general, it really is on my mood. Like if I'm like in an impatient mood or a bad mood or something like that, it's really hard for me to focus. So those types of games like just get me frustrated really quick, and I just want to get something to, be comfortable and be relaxing. And on top of that, I really like playing difficult games with friends because there's a certain comedy to it when you're just having a really hard time getting through it, and it's just it's fun to just have commentary on it with friends.
You know what gets me about the difficult games though? Like when you get to a boss that you just can't defeat and you've battled them like 10 times and you're just like you're like, this boss is impossible. Like this is not, it's not capable for me to beat this boss. Like there's something I'm missing here. And then like I've had this experience where I'll go onto YouTube, I'll watch someone defeat the boss and they don't do anything different than what I did, but they defeat the boss. And then I just go back and I'm like, well, the fact that I've realized it's possible, like that first attempt, I'll beat the boss. It's weird how that works. but it's almost like you just got so frustrated that it's just not happening. But
Yeah,
anyways, the fun stuff.
but that's pretty much my answer to that. I love difficult games, but I essentially need to be in the right mood for it. That's how it is.
Dark Souls Vagrant Story. I think that's a good idea. I'd be all over
Yes,
that.
absolutely. I've been preaching that. Like man, I wish I had Matsuno's phone number. Be like, hey, make a game like Vagrant Story again, except make it with Dark Souls mechanics.
He'd probably be like, "Hi." Like he doesn't know English, I don't think.
That would be a 10 out of 10 game easily for me.
Absolutely. I'd be all about it.
Hmm.
Then BioPhoenix asks, if you could make an RPG of your own, what would you do? Things like gameplay, setting, concepts. Um, so that's a bold question. What do you got?
I guess that depends on my mood, but if I'm going on the easygoing route, I just want something that's very simple to learn, but there is a ton of depth to it.
Yeah.
Something I see a lot of games do nowadays is they care more about the complexity of their game instead of the depth of their game. And because of that, it either becomes unappealing or ill thought, and or it either becomes like boring or just like too broken to really care about to go through other systems and such. Like I know we complained about the Tales series, famously, just putting like just
Stale.
needlessly complex stuff when people just ultimately go to just mashing the button and mashing the same ability over. And like they added like systems to upgrade your gear when
I think
you kind of replace that gear ultimately anyways, like very quickly.
I think that's why we've seen such a resurgence with indie games being so popular, like on the Switch and other consoles, because they've gone back to that core of just like, hey, this just needs to be fun.
Yeah, I mean that's ultimately with me. It just needs to be fun. I like it when I can just sit down, relax, not have to use my brain too much, and just kind of just have a relaxing experience with stuff like that. And like I said, I have my days where I have an adrenaline rush and want to just like games that just punish me. Like I enjoyed the hell out of the Resident Evil 2 remake, but like there was just this one part in that game that was just getting me mad to no end. It was that part um, where you had the large uh, Birkin monster chasing you around this very small platform, and you had to time the crate coming about to hit him off, and it took me forever that night. Like I was getting frustrated. I was putting the controller down. I was like pacing back and forth, just like frustrated, just like baffled why like it's making me do this when the rest of the game hasn't been too bad and
Yeah.
like really fun. And that part of the game almost made me put it down. And like so if I design a game, like I don't want frustrating moments like that, or just like or any heavy spikes in difficulty. Um, I think I would just go back to a Super Nintendo, PlayStation One era RPG mechanics and just focus on making uh, a very well developed world and story and characters
Yeah.
in that regard. Like, not try to break the mold, but just try to refine it the best I can. If we're
See,
talking
from
about RPGs specifically.
yeah. So I feel you there. Like I would probably be graphically more in that style too. Maybe either Super Nintendo or maybe early PlayStation or just PlayStation in general. But I like with like creative stuff. Like I tend to like try to like challenge myself in a way. So I think that I would try for a premise to try to take something wacky and try to make it good. So I think like I would attempt at making a JRPG, which traditionally has a cast of very young kids, but I would try to tell a JRPG story with maybe an older character or an adult or someone who's already had their whole life, but now something new happens. That's
I
why
was thinking for a second you wanted to make like a Goonies RPG.
no. Well, better than that. But I just like something that's kind of like not the normal. That's why I like the games like Undertale and such that like really took something traditional but made something different out of it. So I think I would try to do something like that, and I totally am with you on the gameplay front too. That I just don't like frustrating gameplay. It's not that I don't want it to be challenging. I just don't want it to be frustrating. So I used to say that I hate puzzles and RPGs because they would just be annoying. They'd be like bottlenecking my playthrough of the game, and a lot of them would just feel very, very trial and error and not very, you know, actually figuring stuff out. So, for example, I'm thinking in Final Fantasy 12 with the whole chops plot line where you have to go talk to people to get chops to get to enough respect to ride the taxi. Like that type of stuff is just dumb, right? But when I played Breath of the Wild, I really liked how that game implemented puzzles because it was very sandboxy, and I felt like I would figure things out through experimentation, but it was almost creative and finding a way to get past an obstacle. And I really like that approach with adding that type of gameplay into a game. And I think if they could implement more of that into a JRPG, I think that would be a really good route to go. So I don't know. I would probably go a more wacky approach, like I said, with just trying to do like something out of the ordinary with the game. I'm not sure about like battle system and all that because that's the type of stuff you have to really sit down with. But I do think something along those lines would be really, really cool. Looks like Lane says he's done a little bit of coding for a passion project that is a cowboy Western style JRPG, kind of unique. See, that type of stuff I love because like it's totally
Yeah.
wacky. Like, why would you have a cowboy Western Japanese RPG? But
That's
like,
the kind of stuff I yearn for. Like I'm playing Battlechasers right now, and that's based off like a Western comic book. And like I'm thinking to myself, I want more games like this. Like I like JRPGs, but the anime aspect of it can get to you
yeah,
pretty quickly, and like you start seeing the same things over and over in those type of anime JRPGs, which I love them, but you see the tropes sometimes, and you're like, oh, this type of thing. But then I play something like Battlechasers, I'm like, this feels so refreshing and new feeling. So when I hear a pitch like a cowboy western style JRPG, I'm already thinking in my head, sign me up. I want to see what that's like.
yeah. It's
So,
that's the type of stuff that like appeals to me too from a creative endeavor because I'm like that sounds like that would be a challenge. I wonder if I could do that. So I think if I were to make a game, I would try to do something that's like completely off the wall like that, but like in an effort to see if I could still make it good.
mhm.
Um, but anyways, that's it for me. Do you have anything else?
No, I think that's it for me for that question. Also,
All right. So I think that about wraps us up for this week. And obviously, we'll be back next week. Stan said he should be able to join us next week as well. So we'll be back to 3 people, and we'll have to see you all then. So thanks, guys. Take it easy.
all right, take care.